The second part of my lecture, which will start, will inshallah prove the existence of Almighty God scientifically. Most of the atheists today, they believe science is ultimate. They believe science is 100% correct. So they want the proof. And they tell me that my scientific book doesn't say that God exists. So I will tell them, yes, maybe your science hasn't advanced so much. I will ask them a simple question. That if suppose an equipment is bought in front of an atheist, in front of you, I'll tell that atheist, and no one in the world has seen this equipment. No one in the world has heard about this equipment. If it is bought in front of you for the first time, and if the question is asked that who will be able to tell you the mechanism, the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of an equipment who no one in the world has ever seen before, what will be the reply? Can you guess? Who will be able to tell you? The manufacturer. Can you think of a better answer? Creator. The atheist will reply, the manufacturer, the creator, the inventor, the producer. Whatever he says, it will be somewhat similar. The reply the atheist who believes in science can tell you, the first person who will be able to tell you the mechanism of an equipment who no one in the world has ever seen before is the manufacturer, is the creator, is the producer, is the inventor. Keep this answer at the back of your mind. Then I'll ask him the question that how did our universe come into existence? So he will tell me that it was about 45 years back. In the 1970s, a group of scientists, they described how did the universe come into existence, and they called it the Big Bang. And they said that initially our universe was one primary nebula. Then there was a Big Bang. There was a secondary separation, which gave rise to galaxies, which gave rise to stars, which gave rise to planets, and the earth on which we live. I will tell him that this thing what we have come to know about 45 years back is mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago. It's mentioned in the Quran in Surah Anbiya chapter number 21 verse number 30. Avalam yaral lazina kafaru. Do not the unbelievers see anna samawati wal arda kan taratkan fataknahuma, that the heavens and the earth were joined together and we clove them asunder. This what you're talking about, the Big Bang, which you came to know about 45 years back, is already mentioned in my Quran 1400 years ago. Who could have mentioned that? So he will tell you maybe it's a fluke. There are many things many people have said in the past and it turned out to be true. Many people said something in the past several centuries back without proof. They said it and it turned out to be correct. Maybe it's a fluke. Don't argue. Continue. Ask him next question. That what is the shape of the earth on which we live? The atheist, who's well versed with science, he will tell me that previously we human beings, we thought that the earth was flat. It was in 1577 when Sir Francis Drake sailed around the earth that he proved that the earth was spherical. What you came to know in 1577, about 450 years back, is already mentioned in my Quran 1400 years ago. It's mentioned in Surah Naziyat, chapter number 79, verse number 30. Wal arda ba'da zalika dahaha. And thereafter, we have made the earth egg-shaped. The Arabic word dahaha, one of its meanings is an expanse, and the earth is an expanse. The other meaning is derived from the Arabic word duya, which means an egg. And we know today that the earth is not completely round like a ball. It is flattened from the poles. And the Arabic word duya doesn't refer to a normal egg. It specifically refers to the egg of an ostrich. It also refers to the place where the ostrich lays the egg. And if we analyze the shape of the egg of an ostrich, that too is geospherical in shape. Imagine, the Quran 1400 years ago tells the exact shape of the earth. It does not say it is spherical, it says it is geospherical, the shape of the egg of an ostrich. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran 1400 years ago, which you came to know recently, about 450 years back? So the atheists may tell you, maybe your Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was an intelligent man. Maybe. Don't argue. I'll ask him the next question. That the light of the moon, is the light of the moon its own light or reflected light? So the atheists will tell us that previously we thought that the light of the moon was its own light. Recently we came to know in science, 200 years back, 400 years back, 500 years back, that the light of the moon is not its own light, but it is a reflected light of the sun. I will tell him that Quran says in Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 61, "Blessed is he who has placed the constellations in the sky and placed therein sun having its own light and moon having borrowed light." The Arabic word used for the sun in the Quran is Shams, and its light is always described as Siraj, Wahaj or Diya, meaning a torch, blazing glory, or a blazing lamp. And the moon, the Arabic word used is Qamar. Its light is always described as Munir or Nur, meaning borrowed light or reflected light. So Quran says 1400 years ago that the light of the moon, it's not its own light, but reflected light. And this message is further repeated in Surah Yunus, chapter number 10, verse number 5, as well as Surah Nuh, chapter number 71, verse number 16, that the light of the moon is borrowed light or reflected light. When I was in school, I passed my school in 1982, about 33 years back. I learned in school, in science, that the sun, though it revolved, but it did not rotate about its own axis. In this context, it was stationary. The atheist will tell me, is that what is mentioned in the Quran? No, that is what I read in my school book. But when I read the Quran says in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 33, Huwa alladhi khalaqa al-layla wa nahara. It's Allah who has created the night and the day. وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ, the sun and the moon. كُلٌّ فِي فَلْكِ يَسْبَحُونَ, each one traveling in an orbit with its own motion. The Arabic word used here is yasbahun, derived from the Arabic word sabaha, which describes the motion of a moving body. If I use this Arabic word for a person on the floor, it will not mean he's rolling, it will mean he's walking or running. If I use the same Arabic word for a person in the water, it will not mean he's floating, it will mean he's swimming. Similarly, when the Quran uses it for a celestial body in the heaven, in the sky, it doesn't mean it's floating, it means it rotates about its own axis. So Quran says 1400 years ago that the sun and the moon, besides revolving, they also rotate about their own axis. Imagine, 33 years back, when I was in school, I had read in my science textbook that the sun was stationary. Today, after science is advanced, we have come to know that we can have the image of the sun on a tabletop, and we see there are black spots, and these black spots take approximately 25 days to complete one rotation, indicating that the sun takes approximately 25 days to complete one rotation. And now, this scientific fact that the sun rotates is incorporated in most of the textbooks that we read in school today. So what we came to know recently, 30 years back, 50 years back, 60 years back, the Quran mentioned 1400 years ago that the sun and the moon, besides revolving, they also rotate about their own axis. I'll ask that atheist, that who could have mentioned this in the Quran? He will say, maybe your prophet is super intelligent, he may be a great scientist, Don't argue. Continue. Today science tells us that the sunlight we have is due to a chemical reaction which is taking place since billions of years. And one day this chemical reaction will stop and the sun will cease to exist. But it will take another billion years. Quran says in Surah Yasin, chapter number 36, verse number 38, وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا, that the sun is running its course to a place determined, for a period determined. The Arabic word mustaqar means a place determined. It means a period determined. And today science tells us that the sun, along with the solar system, is moving to a point in the universe known as Hercules, known as Alpha Lyra, to a point at a speed of 12 miles per second known as solar apex. The Quran says the sun is running for a term determined, a period determined, and running to a place determined, indicating the sun is there for a particular time period and it's running to a position determined. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran? And the atheist will be silent. There will be a long pause. Don't wait for his reply. Ask him the next question. The today science tells us that the atmosphere that we have above the earth, which we call as sky, it acts like a protected ceiling. It prevents the harmful radiations, the ultraviolet rays, the X-rays, from entering the earth, without which life would have ceased to exist on the face of the earth. The Quran says in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 32, we have created the sky as a protected ceiling. What you came to know recently in science 100 years back, 200 years back, 300 years back. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago that the sky is a protected ceiling. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran? Don't wait for the reply. When I was in school, I had learned that there were three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. And the scientists believe that there was vacuum outside the organized astronomical systems. Today, after science advance, we have come to know that outside the organized astronomical system is not vacuum. There's something which they call as plasma. And today scientists, they call this as the fourth state of matter. Quran says clearly in Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 59, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created the heaven and the earth and everything in between. That means there is thing in between, it's not vacuum, which science has come to know now. And they call it as the fourth state of matter. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran? Don't wait for the reply. One of the greatest discoveries of the last century, of the 20th century, was done by Edwin Hubble, a very famous scientist, who said that our universe is expanding. And Quran says this 14 years ago in Surah Dariyat, chapter number 51, verse number 47, that we have created the vastness of space. The Arabic word used is mu'siyuna. Mu'siyuna means the vastness of space, the expanding universe. There may be certain skeptics who will say, it is nothing great that the Quran speaks about astronomy because the Arabs were advanced in the field of astronomy. I do agree with them that the Arabs were advanced in the field of astronomy, but I would like to remind them, it was centuries after the Quran was revealed that the Arabs became advanced in the field of astronomy. So it is from the Quran that the Arabs learned about astronomy and not the vice versa.